The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's ShareFile webinar. We're so excited you're with us today. We have some great content to share with you, and we'll also be saving time for your questions. So please feel free to ask those questions in the Q&A console at any time during the webinar, and we will do our best to answer them. And just as a reminder, we are recording today's webinar, and you will receive a copy of this recording probably tomorrow morning. So taking you through our ShareFile admin settings today is Tepe Unmemo, one of our senior customer success engineers. And now I will pass it off to him.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, folks. My name is Tepe Unmemo, and I am on the customer success team. And we assist customers with adoption and retention of the Citrix Cloud products. And that also includes ShareFile. And so for today, we wanted to talk to you about going over some of the admin settings within ShareFile, and then going into a deep dive of some of those settings, and then a Q&A at the end. And before we get started with the admin settings, I wanted to go over and just show you quickly how you can add users and create folders inside ShareFile. So let's see. Okay. And so, Michelle, can you see my screen?
Looks great, Tepe.
Great, thank you. Okay, so when you log in, you'll go to your sharefile.com address, and under the people section, you can go to browse employees or browse clients if you're creating them as a client user. And if you're manually creating them, you can just go ahead and type in here. And let's see. And then there are email address. And then under the user access, you'll see the different policies and admin settings that the users might have access to. So by default, they'll have like the basic settings for a basic employee added in here. There's settings like viewing the account permissions, managing e-signature options, creating employees. All those settings are going to be in here. I'm just going to leave it as the default setting here. You can also set a storage location. So if you have multiple storage locations, or if you have on-prem storage, then you can set the storage location to a specific one. And you can also assign them to any kind of folders that are already existent or distribution groups. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and create continue. And just continue anyways. And then you'll be sent to a section where you can send out a welcome email, and just kind of, you can even preview the email as to what it will look like, and modify the message as you need it to. Okay, so now I'm just going to skip that. And creating folders. So you'll want to go into the shared folder section. And in the shared folder section, we call these the root level folders. And this is kind of like the landing point for all your users. To create a root level folder, on the right hand side, you'll see create folders. And this one, let's just say for test for webinar. And then you can select add people to folder. Yes. And then again, set a storage location for that specific folder. And then when you had let's see. So when you were creating the folder, you had an option to add people to the folder. So if you hit set this to yes, then it will take you directly into that user addition page. And you can do it from the folder itself as well too. You'll just want to go to people on this folder right there under the name of the folder. And then hit add people to folder. And let's just type in Michelle's name here and I'll search for it. And then you can give the user view, download, upload, delete, or admin settings. So for example, on this one, let's just say I just want Michelle to have upload permissions to this folder. And I don't want to notify her yet. I'll let her know later. And there you go. That's how you can add users. If you wanted to add people to the folder that are like maybe outside of the organization and you want to send it very quickly, you can also hit create new user here, and you can type in their email address and then their first and last name, and then you can hit add as well too. All right, so if we go back to the slides, the first one I wanted to go over with you guys is going to be the branding your account, and then we'll go over configuring tools, password security settings such as SAML settings or default password strengths, folder templates, so you can set the folder structures on the root level folders, file drops to make dropping files for employee users through a link very easy and accessible to external users, connectors, which are for other external storage repositories like OneDrive or network shares, and then our reporting functions. Okay, so let's start off with branding your account. Now, before we get into that, I did want to also kind of show you that we have another page where you can go to do the admin settings for ShareFile, and that's going to be in Citrix Cloud. So if you have the, let's say the workspace experience, then you can also go to us.cloud.com and access the Citrix Cloud portal. And once you're logged into the Citrix Cloud portal, you'll see content collaboration there in the middle, which is essentially our new name for ShareFile. And then you'll see similarly the manage options for all the admin settings, and then a users tab for creating employee and client users, as well as the distribution groups. Now, for branding your ShareFile account, there's going to be two settings. So in Citrix Cloud, this is going to be the workspace experience. So the branding is going to be done through the workspace configuration here. So that will be more for branding your workspace experience like this, right? So you have your apps and desktops and files. Now, if you're branding your ShareFile account, then you'll go back into your ShareFile account here, go into the admin settings, and then under company account info, you'll see the edit company branding. And here you can modify the colors of your background, the accent colors. I don't have a logo in here, but if you wanted to, you can upload your corporate logo, as well as changing additional advanced options. Like for example, the browser tab up here, how it presents, the favicon icon, as well as header options here specific to the landing page, or if you wanted to, maybe like the login page if you wanted to customize that as well too. Okay, so if we move on to configuring tools, so let's see, I'm gonna go into Citrix Cloud for this one, just so we can kind of switch it up. So if we go to Citrix Cloud, we'll go back to content collaboration. So same thing, right? Admin settings, you'll see the same kind of things. And advanced preferences and enable ShareFile tools. So this page will list the desktop applications that you'll see inside ShareFile that will be available for you for download. You can decide to hide those pages if you want to, or just do not show any tools at all. And you can also restrict access to specific applications like the sync tool drive mapper, and any kind of external applications like FTP and WebDAV. For now, I'm just gonna leave this on. Just leave that available. Now, one other additional tool is the Outlook plugin, and we've mentioned this in previous webinars as well too, but to just kind of briefly go over what it is. The Outlook plugin is a plugin that is installed with your native Outlook, and it allows you to send documents or files securely through ShareFile and kind of manage the file size attached to the emails. So if you configure the plugins, you can set the default settings for the Outlook plugin, as well as preventing those changes. So for example, let's say you have on your mail servers, you have a maximum file size of 5 megabytes as attachments. Then you can set this to automatically convert any kind of attachments over 5 megs to the ShareFile links instead. And if you want, you can prevent those user changes as well. You can set things like the expiration policy on the links as well. So if you're more security minded and you're worried about how long users can have access to certain documents, you can set this to, for example, 1 day, a month, and then again, prevent the users from changing those. Other things you can change the banners and how the links are inserted into the emails. So for example, if you wanted it to be some kind of more graphic oriented image, then you can do a banner, or if you wanted to do just a text, you can do that as well. And for the banner itself, you can also do some basic customization as well too. And then for the link options, you can do security settings. So what kind of information is required in order to download the files, as well as things as notifying of any downloads and setting like maximum downloads as well too. Okay, so next item is going to be password and security settings. So we'll go into security, and let's just look at the password requirements. So for users outside of your organization, they're going to be using the ShareFile specific passwords, right? Then you can set the password requirements for those users in the password requirements field. Pretty self-explanatory here. If you need a summary of what that policy will look like, you have it there as a summary on the bottom. And this does not apply for users that are, or any accounts that are using SAML integrations or AD integrations. So those are going to be, the password requirements will be set on your AD side. Next, if we look at the login and security policy, we have the policies for the two-step verification. So this applies again to users who are using the ShareFile specific credentials. So we have it always enabled for employee users. And if you want, you can enable it for client users as well. It's our recommendation that it's enabled for client users as well too. Application specific passwords. So there are certain applications inside ShareFile, like the user management tool or storage zone controller, that require a specific password to bypass that two-factor authentication, and you will create a application specific password just for that unique application. So when you create this, it'll generate a password that you can copy and paste into just that one specific application. Account lockout. This is the number of attempts users have before they're logged out of ShareFile and the duration they'll be logged out of. The terms and conditions and the IP restrictions. These features are available, but you'll have to contact our ShareFile support team in order to get these features enabled. And then finally, we have authentication here at the bottom. The top setting here, log inactive users out after 1 hour. This is the setting for any web sessions, or browser sessions. So if a user has been logged into ShareFile for 1 hour, then without any activity on a browser, then they are automatically logged out. This second setting, re-authenticate after, this is for desktop applications and mobile applications, and how frequently they are logged out of those applications. All right, so next I want to move on to what's called folder templates. And for that, I think it'll be easier to go back to the ShareFile settings here. So under advanced preferences, you'll see folder templates. And folder templates allow you to create a generic folder structure and apply that to multiple folders and just kind of make your folder creation process a lot easier. So for example, here, I created a accounting template that has all these folders already pre-built. And if I wanted to, let's say I want to go ahead and add this accounting template to my accounting folder. Then what you'll do, I have my accounting folder here. You'll go under more options, and under the edit advanced folder settings, you can say that the folder template, use folder template here, and then select your account template. And once you do that, the folders are automatically created. So there's the 8879 folder, and then under the tax year folder, I've got the years automatically pre-built out in here. Other ways you can do it too. So if we go back into the advanced preferences in the folder templates, you also have this option to add the folders through this menu here as well too, just like that. And let's go through the process of just creating a new template here too. So let's say template for webinar. It's pretty simple. You just give it a name and you just start adding folders. So let's say that for this one, I'll say client A, and then under the client A, I want to add a tax documents and such. And then from there, you can add that to any specific folder. And that's it for folder templates. So next, if we move on to file drops. So file drops allow you to create a link where external users can drop files, documents to your employees from a drop-down list using just kind of a generic link. So for example, let's say this one will just test for webinar again. And I want, let's say, Nigel, Sterling, and Michelle on this list. So now when I look at this, oh, sorry. I can go to this direct link option here on the right-hand side, copy the link, and you can embed this again right into your website, any corporate website. And when you go to that link, you'll have a drop-down list to drop files into any user's personal file box. So let's say I want to drop something for Michelle. And I've got this presentation for her. Oh, that's not going to work because Michelle has not logged in. Let's see. Well, yeah, so that's not going to work right now because Michelle hasn't set up her account yet, but that would drop the file in for her. And then the next feature is called connectors. And connectors allow you to access multiple storage repositories through ShareFile. And the great thing about this is that you can manage access to these contents from the ShareFile portal, but it's going to present the data directly from OneDrive or Google Drive without storing that data in ShareFile. So it's this double access kind of layer where you can manage the experience on the ShareFile side, but then the content is also not residing within ShareFile. So for example, let's say I wanted to create a OneDrive for Business connector. You're just going to give it a name here. Let's say test OneDrive. And then you'll need your OneDrive for Business URL that you just copy in here and then hit continue. Once you do that, you can manage the access to this OneDrive connector, and it's going to be just like typing and searching names. So I'll add Michelle here. And what that means is Michelle now has access to it inside ShareFile, right? You know what that will look like if you go in the folders here, you'll see Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneDrive for here for me because I've given myself access to these. If you don't have access, so Michelle on her side, she would only see the OneDrive for Business. And here, so I've already created this for myself. And if I go into my OneDrive account here, I see all my content. And again, this is a more of a brokering service that ShareFile is using to access the content and is not being stored inside ShareFile. And then lastly, I want to go over the reporting feature. So reporting is again going to be under the admin settings and company account info, and then you'll see reporting there. So you've got a few different types of reports you can create. Usage report, which will give you the basic activity on the account. An access report will show you the permissions sets on each folders. Access change will show you any kind of permission changes on any folders on the account. And then a storage detail will give you the breakdown of the file size, folder sizes in the account, while storage summary will be more of like a generic overview of the storage on the account. Share and requests, those are for any kind of share or request links that are sent out. Detailed reports of users, so the last login times, and such, creation dates, things like that. And then messages for any messages sent out through ShareFile. Now, I also have recurring reports created in here. So you can, when you create, like for example, a access report, you can set this to be a recurring report. And when you go in to create this, it'll ask you whether you want to create this on a daily basis, weekly, or monthly. And then also select the location to store the reports. Now, I already have this report created, so I'm not going to go ahead and create this again. But what it will look like is under my shared folders, I have my ShareFile reports. And so I have a usage report being automatically generated. And then I also have a access report that's automatically generated. And again, because these are being stored inside of a ShareFile folder, you can also set things like notifications or upload alerts, and then you'll be notified of any kind of new reports being generated here. And that's it for the demos. And I think we can dive into the Q&A.
Great, thank you so much, Tepe. We were getting a lot of feedback from our customers that they're loving this presentation and they're very grateful. So thank you so much for going through all of these steps. We did get a lot of questions, so I'm just going to dive into them, starting at the top. So most of the questions we got were actually when you were creating those folders. So I'll start with that. Is there a way to turn off the default setting, create root folder?
Default setting for creating root folders. Default settings. So well, you can set the default settings for the root folders. So for example, under the advanced preferences in the file settings, you can set the retention policies and like the versionings here, but you cannot disable a default setting for those folders per se.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Can you change the default welcome email to a default of your choosing, or can you even use multiple templates for that welcome email?
You can modify the welcome emails. So let's see. under the email options, you can make some basic changes here, or if you wanted to. Now, again, this is for kind of like basic text, so it's not for the welcome email. But if you wanted to modify a welcome email, the only section you can do that is through here, through the resend welcome emails page.
Okay. So some of our customers were interested in the Citrix Cloud side of it. So do you automatically have access to Citrix Cloud as a ShareFile customer? And if so, are your credentials the same?
So credentials will not be the same. So this is going to be the same credentials as your Citrix portal logins. And if you're the administrator of Citrix Cloud or of your Citrix account, then you'll have access to it. But what you'll need to do is under Identity and Access Management of Citrix Cloud, you'll want to make sure you have any administrators added in here with at least the ShareFile permissions.
Great, thank you. Moving on. Oh, we had several customers inquire about our Gmail plugin. Can you go to your ShareFile, to the ShareFile side and show where our customers can get that Gmail plugin?
The Gmail plugin, okay. Let's see. It's going to be a Chrome plugin.
Okay.
So let's see, let me just search for it real quick. Yeah, so it's going to be this page right here. So in the Chrome Web Store, you'll have Citrix Files for Gmail.
Thank you. That was a popular one. Okay. Is there a way for admins to change user passwords without having to send a reset your password email?
No, that is not possible. So for security reasons, we do not allow passwords to be manually set within ShareFile.
Got it. Okay. Some more folder questions. Can folder templates be rolled out to users' personal folders?
I would not recommend it, but I believe it's not possible as well. So we can test it real quick. So let's see, personal folders. You can apply a folder template, but my recommendation would be not to, because these folder templates are typically meant for any kind of folder with collaboration, and the personal folders is not really intended for collaboration use. This is for personal projects or any kind of personal documents that you might want to store here.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, and then we just had some customers who don't have that folder set templates option they don't see that folder setting option. What would be the reason for that?
Yeah, it could be that you might have an older ShareFile account and you just need to contact our ShareFile support team to get it enabled.
Okay, thank you. And is there an easy way to add a new folder to shared folders that already exist? Currently, we are going into each folder to add a new folder.
Well, again, the folder templates will definitely help.
Okay.
But so it depends. If you're talking about it in a sense of, for example, like if you're using the web sessions or the browser sessions, yes, it will get tedious to create individual folders. My recommendation at that point would be to use the Citrix Files application instead. So with the Citrix Files desktop application, you're gonna have this kind of like native experience. And again, this is also available on the on Mac as well. And this will make creating folders a lot easier. So just like that. And let's see. Yeah, and so that'll make it a lot easier for you guys.
Thank you. And when you edit folders, is there any effect on the files within those folders?
No. So when you're editing folders, so for example, let's say, I have this instructor1 folder, right? So if I were to, let's say, call this tests and rename it, this does not affect any of the content or any of the permissions on this folder. And the reason why is that this is the name of the folder is only more of a visual setting here for us. And then we have a different ID for the folders that always stay permanent, regardless of what the name is.
Okay, and then if, do you get alerted as an admin when someone deletes or moves a folder?
You can, but you'll have to have the permissions enabled. So you can do just kind of like an activity log or oh, that's a good one. Yeah, so for deletes, we can't do delete notifications, but you can do like the reports and such. And you can have these, like for example, in each individual folder, you can run a report for any kind of activity.
Great. Okay, and then before we move on to questions about connectors, is there a way to, are there different levels of admin access to employees that you can give in your organization?
You can. So we mentioned this in another webinar too, but there's if you have, for example, the user management tool with policy-based administration, this can make it really easy. So the user management tool kind of ties in with your Active Directory groups, and you can create different levels of permissions here. So for example, here I've created a support group and given them permission to just manage employees and the distribution groups as well and access some reporting tool, while the admin group has full permission to the account.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to connector questions. So just in general, Tepe, why would someone use a connector? What is the benefit?
Yeah, the benefit is that you have this experience where you have all your content, whether it be Dropbox, Google Drive, or OneDrive, all available in this one umbrella, especially when you come into more of like the workspace experience. Then right here, you have, for example, OneDrive, all of this in here as well. You can even do, again, like network shares. So if you have what's called an on-prem storage zone controller in your environment, then you can access network shares directly through ShareFile without a VPN connection, and adds additional security measures to your network shares.
Yeah, as a user, I appreciate connectors immensely. So
Yeah, it's really nice to have all your content,
yep.
regardless of where you are.
And when you're using connectors, you did mention this, but we're just confirming that when you enable connectors for Google Drive, all of those documents from Google Drive are not being saved in ShareFile. It's just access to them, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And are connectors available for everyone, or is it only on certain package levels?
It should be available for everyone,
Okay.
at least the personal cloud connectors. So the personal cloud connectors are going to be these ones like Dropbox, Google Drive. The network share connectors and the SharePoint ones will require a storage zone controller. So if you don't have a on-prem storage solution with ShareFile, then you will not be able to use those.
Okay. And can you quickly, again, I know you showed this when you went over it, but real quick again, show how to set up that connector?
Yeah, so let's see. Let me go ahead and just kind of delete this one then. Yeah, so Google Drive, super simple. Just hit enable. Storage location really doesn't matter. It's just kind of more for, our backend stuff. And then let's say I wanted to add, again, Michelle to this. And so then what they'll see is Google Drive here, but I'm gonna just kind of disconnect this so you can have a better idea of what it would look like. So user experience wise, they'll still see this, right? They'll see Google Drive, and then they'll be asked to authenticate because first of all, we've only given the users access to the Google Drive connector in ShareFile, right? So again, we don't store any of the data inside ShareFile, which means the ShareFile service needs to act as a brokering service to Google Drive. So when we hit authenticate, it'll ask for your Google credentials, and it's just that easy.
And then will this show up in the Citrix Files folder tree from an end user perspective?
Yep.
Great.
So in Citrix Files, the way I have it configured, I have it set so that not only do I have just my overall ShareFile account showing under this U drive, but to make it even easier, I just went ahead and made my OneDrive content under the T drive to make it even easier to access.
Great. Well, we are out of time, and we had so many questions come in, and I did just want to let our customers know that this is our third webinar in September, focusing specifically on ShareFile, and we are working through so many questions, and we're going to come up with a FAQ after all 4 webinars are completed. And so we do have another webinar next week. That's our last webinar in the September webinar series, and we're going to be going over ShareFile security features next week. I just popped that link to register if you haven't already in the chat feature, so please go ahead and register for that if you're interested in learning more about all of our security features. And again, once that webinar is complete, we'll go ahead and go through all the questions that we received in the last 4 webinars and make one comprehensive FAQ document, and we'll be sharing that out with everyone who attended and registered for all of these webinars. So Tepe, thank you again so much for your expertise today, and thank you to all of our customers for spending time with us to learn more about ShareFile and all of these admin settings. You will be receiving an email with the recording probably tomorrow morning, so look out for that. And again, I just reminded you about the webinar next week, so go ahead and register for that if you'd like. And until next week then, everyone, Thank you so much and have a great day.